Hey guys, this is Board Now's Retro Television Reviews, and on this video I return to the Gilmore Girls. It's Season 1, Episode 5, and the title of this one is called Cinnamon's Wake. And so it's been a while since I've done a Gilmore Girls episode. It's been, I think, just over a month, something like that. And you can probably hear my dog snoring. That's AJ, my dog, making a cameo on this video. But speaking of pets, because this one, the title Cinnamon's Wake, actually comes from the vet's pet cat Cinnamon, who dies during the episode. And of course, with this being Stars Hollow, they put on a wake for her, so Cinnamon's Wake. There you see him waking up, in fact. So that's where the title comes from. This one is directed by Michael Ketterman, and he's a name I see pop up a lot. He's really sort of a journeyman type TV director. He's, pretty solid sort of genre TV director. He's done episodes of True Calling, he's done Dark Angel, he's done Northern Exposure, which I've still not seen. I think he's probably done more than one Gilmore Girls episode, but so yeah, bit of a notable director. And it's also written by Michael Palladino, who of course is the husband of Amy Palladino, who created the show. They created Gilmore Girls together, so he does the script on this one. And to be honest, it's not that great. There's not many interesting scenes or things going on in the episode. So I'll pick out the best sort of bits. I think the opening is really good. It's sort of like a cold open, although it does get referenced later on. It does get brought back up, and so the Gilmores are having dinner over at Emily's. It's regular Friday night dinner. And the more we get into the series and the relationship with Lorelai and her mother, the more we see these really funny but awkward Friday night dinner scenes, and they become a big staple of the show, and some of the best scenes do come from them, actually. But so it opens with the three of them. Richard isn't there because he's away on business in Germany. And so I really like this scene, actually, because what happens is Lorelai makes an awkward joke about the Nazi sort of thing when Emily says he's in Germany. Says, "Oh, I didn't know we knew any Nazis." And of course, it flies over Emily's head and she's joking. We see again the miscommunication between mother and daughter, and it's actually Roy who has to point out then her mother was joking. But we get this awkward sort of pause there. But what I like is the way it pays off later, and the way Emily sort of gets one over on Lorelai, which probably doesn't happen too often, to be fair. But she then mentions, "Oh, me and your father, we used to spend time in Germany with this." I can't remember the surname, actually, and I'm not sure if this is meant to be a real character or not. But it's Rudolph something or other. And she says, "Well, yeah, he was a member of the Nazi." And obviously Lorelai is horrified. She says, "How could you spend time with a known member of the Nazis? That's disgusting." And Emily comes in with, "No, Lorelai, that was a joke." And it's a great joke, but it's even funnier because Roy gives out, quite a big laugh. So Roy laughing at it is adorable. But I just love the fact that Emily makes this great joke, then sort of outdoes the joke made earlier by her daughter, and then points out, "No, that was a joke. Your joke sucked." And you kind of have to agree with her. But Emily's a character I really enjoy, and the more we see of her, the more she becomes part of what I enjoy about this show. But I think one of the things about this scene is it does set up the stuff later with the cat, because Emily mentions then Claudia, who's apparently a cousin, but probably quite a distant cousin of Lorelai's, has passed away. So she says, the funeral's this weekend or whenever it is. You're going to come, right? And Lorelai doesn't even remember Claudia and says, well, no, I'm not going to that. I don't know her, sort of thing. And that kind of comes into play later because obviously the fact that she then attends like a cat's funeral. So again, we're seeing more examples of the distance between mother and daughter and the difference between life in Stars Hollow and the life of Emily and Richard in this plush sort of mansion. But really good cold open. I really liked it. Some of the other highlights, I really liked Lane's dance after the credits. She like the Gilmores are downstairs getting ready for their days and opens the door. Lane's there doing this really kind of goofy type but enthusiastic dance, points for enthusiasm. And she says it's almost again just an escape from her mother, and then they tell, isn't it time for school, you better go. But what I like about it is I think that dance ends up in the credits later on when it goes to Lane. We see her like stop dancing and having a look. But yeah, cute little moment. And another sort of funny little scene with Lane. I keep saying her Lane, sorry. Freudian slip, folks. But her and Rory later on are walking down the street and they're obviously playing this game where it's, you have to say where you would live in an ideal world if there was no sort of hurdles type thing. And we come in the middle and Lane says Philadelphia, and Rory's surprised at that choice, but then Lane says, well, it's home of M. Night Shyamalan. And Rory doesn't appear to know who he is, which I found a bit odd, but she says, the director of Sixth Sense. And Rory says, well, what would you do in Philadelphia? And Lane says, I would hang out with M. Night Shyamalan. And it's quite a funny joke, but it's sort of a funny scene just because of how dated it is. I mean, not dated in a bad way, but if it was today and that episode was like aired now, I don't think they would make the joke because obviously we've had all these crappy movies now from M. Night Shyamalan, so it would not be seen as a cool thing to say, yeah, hey, I would go to Philadelphia to hang out with the director of The Sixth Sense, or one of his shitty films. But yeah, this is on the back of a really great debut in The Sixth Sense, really popular film. Now this is 2000, so depending on the month, it would have maybe have been a bit before Unbreakable, but certainly Sixth Sense was at the time very popular, seen as a really great debut. And then with Unbreakable, he was like on a roll again because arguably that's an even better film. But yeah, it's just funny looking back how some references maybe seem a bit dated now because yeah, I don't think they would proudly pronounce M. Night Shyamalan as a cool thing nowadays. Although obviously he's been a bit more up and then down, but Split was sort of a return to form, or at least on the way up. And I like Glass personally. I know a lot of people were down on it, but yeah, he's had his ups and downs, it's fair to say, but it's a reference that does date because of that. So yeah, I enjoy that little scene, and then really I enjoy the wake at the end. They actually don't do as much with it as you would think. But yeah, I think it's one of these things that just shows you the community spirit and the sense of Stars Hollow. The fact then they would go out of their way to actually hold a wake for a neighbourhood cat. And obviously we see the Gilmore girls, they're instantly there for Babette when they hear of the news, and they're there supporting her and her husband. And yeah, Lorelai puts on the wake at the hotel, and Yeah, it's this whole thing they play Cinnamon song because of course he has cinnamon. Oh, sorry, of course a cat has a song because this is Stars Hollow. This is different logic from the rest of the world, but yeah, I think it really gives you the sense of community and the sense how even something like a neighbourhood cat in this sort of community, and I know we treat pets as if they are one of the family anyway, but yeah, most people don't go to the extent of actually having wakes for them. But yeah, this is a good example. It's quite a nice little gathering type scene. And again, it pays off the fact that Lorelai wasn't interested in going to her cousin's funeral, but obviously goes to this cat's funeral. And I love the scene with Emily, sorry, right near the end of the episode, when she talks to Lorelai on the phone, and I love Rory actually signaling to Lorelai saying, don't tell her, don't tell her. And it sort of comes out anyway. And obviously Emily's reaction is just great when she hears she's been to a cat funeral. And obviously the subject of Claudia comes up. And then there's another great Emily line. She steals this episode, really, because she has the line, because Lorelai says to her, I've got a busy day tomorrow, and Emily says, why? Are you going to a raccoon's wedding? Ah, oh, brilliant stuff from Emily. So, yeah, she's only in this episode briefly, but the two scenes she's in, she really steals. So, I'm looking forward to talking about more Friday night dinner scenes and the back and forth with Emily and Lorelai. Well, that's great stuff. And also, actually, there's a scene in the hotel where it turns out Michel doesn't like French people. Who would have known? And that's the reason why he left France. But Lorelai makes him be nice, essentially, to French customers who are in. They're either businessmen or just customers, and one of them kisses Michelle on the cheek, which I guess is this kind of sort of quite old custom, but anyway, Michelle doesn't like that, and I just love he looks at Lorelai and says, "Kill me now," and it's the delivery, the monotone, deadpan delivery from Michelle. Great stuff. So really, those are the highlights. I mean, we get more on the romances. Max asks Lorelai out. She reluctantly agrees. She's not comfortable with it because obviously Max is Rory's teacher, and she sort of fights it and then agrees in typical Lorelai fashion to go to a coffee, but she plays it cool and just says, I happen to be going into town tomorrow and I'll happen to stop off for a coffee. So if you're there, obviously I won't be rude and I won't say then you can't be there. So we might come across. So it's sort of playful sort of humour, but yeah, Max I'm still not digging, and the romance I'm not really into, but obviously Lorelai admits in this episode she does have a thing for Max, and she wants to sort of pursue that, but she is very concerned about him being Rory's teacher. But so far, yeah, on this rewatch, I'm not really digging Max. His sort of flirting in this episode is kind of cheesy and doesn't do much for me. And another thing is Lorelai has to cancel the date because of the cat's funeral, because she agrees to have lunch for him as a second date, but then has to cancel it because of Cinnamon's wake. Of course, that's the most important thing. Who could overlook that? And I love the line as Max walks away. Damn it, Cat! Why couldn't you wait like 2 more days or something to drop dead? She's very good. And more Roy Dean stuff, more of him stalking her, getting on the bus as she does, blah blah blah. And she also admits then she likes him. But that's like this brief sort of scene. She runs, says, "I am interested. Goodbye." So she's kind of playing it casual. But I tell you what, if there's zero chemistry between Max and Lorelai, there's even less between Rory and Dean. I mean, you could say there is chemistry between Max and Lorelai, or some. It's just Max, the character, isn't really doing it for me, and I don't really, not really